But we don't know about that.
She may not have one.
Okay. How about the annual meetings that were later on? I don't know. Bylaws of the
Okay.
That's probably a good idea.
Yes, I could try to do
Like it's really crooked. Straighten it out here.
Well, no, our 90s.
Okay. Okay.
There's no microphone again. So that's a bummer.
Really?
There's one up there. I don't.
So is that something they haven't done?
They said they were going to. When we did our walkthrough, they said they would provide a microphone that's their audio. Because I remember we were discussing, do we need a new holder or not?
Yeah.
And he was like, nope, I already have it fixed.
So theoretically, they have a microphone.
Yeah, I just.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi. How are you? Oh, my dear, it's good to see you in person. I've been avoiding this like a plague because of when I'm good. How are you? I guess you're right. All those years ago. Still in insurance. Again. What do you work at? Oh, sure. Especially without a lot of time. But you're always. Yeah. And I miss them more than I miss anything else when I retired. I know, you know. And if you have a young growing family, which you do, you need to have some homework. How long did we work together? You started that long after I did. Right. Yep. And I mentioned you in my talk. What's it called anyway? It's not a vocational talk anymore. No, I thought it was number spotlight. Okay, whatever. Yeah, oh, it's not exactly. Yes, but I've never done one in all the years I've been in Rotary. I've never done one. I thought, yeah, that's so odd because my life has been so many ups. But we had our vocational, our Thursday. Yeah. And it was also middle career versus straight career. And I'm school. Yeah. I'm excited. You too.
See, Lori's here. So we got moved up a little bit closer this time. Yes, a little bit.
Okay.
Janine looks like she's going to be online.
Yes.
Because I've got the info for Lori.
Okay. Is Lori here yet? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's right
Do you have slides or no? No. Okay, perfect. It is, yeah, we're getting close. You saw quick people on the
Video, you want to start the video?
Yeah.
Well,
I already started, I think.
no, they're just fooling around. It's not,
We still have quite a few people in the room here. We're getting seated.
There's much for me to say. I would have probably. You gotta wait around. I had to sit down for a few minutes, and nobody showed up.
I know.
Basic premise of the whole thing has been that we have very
Okay, ready to rock and roll? Good afternoon, everyone. I am Chris Colby. Welcome to the 27th January 27th, midday meeting of the Rotary Club of Rochester. As I say, I'm Chris Colby. I'm standing in for Audrey today, who is traveling. She's over her COVID, but now she's traveling. So hopefully she can, maybe she signed in. I don't know. She's not on. All right. So since we can't all be in the same room, we want to take a minute to say hello to each other. We have look like 9 or 10 or 12 people on board. So let's wave at each other, and that's the best we can do for right now, I guess. But thank you. The four-way test, the things get started. Tamsin Slimer will lead us in the four-way test. Tamsin? Things say or do. First is the truth. Second is the prayer of all concerned. Third will do well and better friendships. And fourth will be beneficial to all concerned. Thank you, Tamsin. Joseph will provide a reflection for us today. Joseph? We don't have a microphone, so you just need to speak up.
Okay.
Okay.
Tomorrow will be the 36th anniversary of the explosion of the Space Shuttle Challenger on January 28, 1986. I remember I was visiting my friend that day, and it's one of those days which is hard to forget. The space shuttle was a marvelous, very complex and advanced machine. Engineers had to make many design decisions. One of those decisions was not to implement a heavy launch escape system. The safety system, if unthinkable things happen, was not there. Of course, they did their best to design the space shuttle as reliable as possible. That ominous day was unusually cold and frigid at Florida Kennedy Space Center. Then, during launch of the Challenger, one of the rubber sealing rings was unexpectedly too cold and not flexible enough, which eventually caused explosion in the 73rd second of the flight. Not having an escape system, the astronauts on board didn't have a second chance, and unfortunately, they perished. Hard lesson was learned. Last few years, NASA astronauts can fly to space on SpaceX spacecraft Crew Dragon, which has a launch escape system back again. Fortunately, they now have a second chance in case of major failure. Concept of the second chance is useful not only for the safety of human spaceflights. We are using safety belts and airbags on a regular basis to be safe in case of car accidents. There are animal shelters which help lost animals to find new families. There are re-entry programs for incarcerated people to help them to return to normal lives. Medical treatments gives us many times a second chance, which decades or centuries was not possible. In human relations, a second chance can be the right way to fix broken relations. And I am sure that many Rotary programs give those in need a second chance. In our own lives, we may give ourselves a second chance, simply not giving up and try again. Thank you.
Very good words for what we're going through right now. So thank you, Joseph. Colin Aldous will introduce our visitors and guests. Colin? The masked Colin Aldous. There we go.
Do we have any visitors or guests? Because if we don't, I won't even believe my seat.
Is there anybody online that is a visitor that needs to raise their hand? Or I don't see any, so I guess we're good. Unless how about Monica Kopit?
Well, she's our new.
She's our new member. Okay, so
I'm here.
okay, hi Monica. So okay, thank you, Colin. I guess we'll go from there. Birthdays and anniversaries. birthdays in the last 2 weeks in January are in order date. Kathy Lazard, January 25th. Donna Greason, January 30th, and Mel Trimble, January 30th. And anniversaries, we have Mark Neville, 8 years, and Lori Ludke, 25 years. So let's celebrate these birthdays and anniversaries with a round of applause. Thank you. Before we get into our program, we have a kind of a busy program today because in addition to our program, we have our regular annual meeting, which we need to go through and elect officers and review our bylaws and get those approved. So we are trying to move things around. Prior to getting into this, Melanie Trimble had asked for a moment to say something about the summer exchange program. Melanie?
Hi, everyone. So North Star Youth Exchange has a desire to host a step camp here in July of 2022. This short-term exchange camp would allow 12 students from around the world to come to Minnesota for 2 weeks to experience nature and technology is the goal. The Rochester clubs have been asked to participate in this camp, which would include hosting students during their time in Rochester and planning activities for the students, including a visit to Mayo Clinic. We were planning to participate in this camp in 2020, but unfortunately that camp was canceled due to COVID. So we are trying again. But before we commit to participating this year, we would like to gauge interest from our members to be host families for students. We're looking at approximately 3 to 4 nights of hosting 1 or more students. And we are anticipating that the dates would be between July 11th and 15th. As a host family, you'd be asked to provide breakfast each morning, 1 evening meal out of that time frame, and transportation for the student or students to a common meeting place in the morning, as well as picking them up in the afternoon when they return from activities. Host families are welcome to attend the activities with the students as well. If you're interested in hosting 1 or more students for this camp, please let myself or any Youth Exchange Committee member know by the end of next week, February 4th, so that we can get back to the district if we will participate. I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has any, or let me know if you are interested.
Okay, have a question?
Could she repeat the dates?
Pardon me?
Could she repeat the dates?
Yes.
Repeat the dates. Okay, July
Yeah.
11th or 15th. Is that correct?
Those are not finalized yet, but they're looking at the first 2 weeks of July, and Rochester would probably be at the end of the camp because other clubs would be participating the start of the camp.
Okay, thanks, Mel. So if you're interested, contacting Mel or sending an email to Amber, I'm sure she can forward it to everybody. And if you are interested, I think the interest level should get communicated within the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested, let's get going on that. Sarah, thank you, Mel. Sarah Burrington has a member spotlight today. Sarah?
There's no microphone.
You have to speak up.
be
I
real
will.
vocal.
I used to be a music teacher and I had concert choir of 90 students, so and the room wasn't quite this big though, but still, hopefully you can hear me. Is everyone so far?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Last week in our third Thursday virtual meeting, we had a TED Talk on the straight career versus the squiggle career. And I had never heard of that before. And it was a brilliant talk. And in the middle of it, I was already realizing my life has been just one giant squiggle. I've never taken the straight line going into a line of work and then up and up and up. So that's my beginning. I have never had a straight career. So I was born in Rochester. I went to and grew up here. I went to Edison, Central Junior High, which is no longer, and Mayo High School. I began studying cello and piano when I was 7 and 9 respectively. I played in symphonies since I was 11. I graduated from Mayo High School and went on to Mankato State University, where I thought I was going to major in art because I loved art as well. I gave up study halls to take art classes for no credit in high school. But while I was there, I was convinced by the orchestra director and my cello teacher that I should switch my major to music, which was an easy thing for me to do. After 2 years at Mankato State, I transferred to University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, partially because they have a great music department, and they also gave me a scholarship based on a cello audition that I played for them, so that was nice. And then graduated from Eau Claire with a bachelor's of music education. I don't know that Minnesota has that equivalent, but it was called a BME, and that's what it says on my diploma. I then continued my education. So this is all my students so far, my education at St. Cloud State University, pursuing my master's in music education, while at the same time teaching in St. Cloud Public Schools music, which was my very first job outside of college. I also taught private cello lessons, especially during the summer when I had free time, and sometimes after school. And also the last 2 years I was there, my job description was deleted and I was offered either no unemployment insurance or take a full-time equivalent in teaching choir. So I took voice lessons. I did. Luckily, I already played piano because I minored in piano in college. And so I was able to accompany my choir, and apparently I was okay at singing. So I did that for 2 years, but that discouraged me. And so after 8 years of teaching in St. Cloud, I miss the students, but I don't miss the bureaucracy of education. That's just not for me. So we moved back to Rochester, my first husband and I. Some of you may know him, Michael, and we opened Carson Art Supply downtown on the corner. Well, not at first. Chris was our customer when we were on North Broadway. Yeah, but we moved to the downtown on the corner of 4th Street and Broadway. And we ran our business for 17 years, very successful until the computer age pretty much squashed that. But I had to become a student again, learning business, learning accounting, learning all kinds of art supplies I'd never heard of. My husband knew all of it, but he ran the art store at the St. Cloud bookstore. I learned how to paint. I learned how to do pastels. I took classes in mediums I never even heard of before, and I loved it. Back to my art roots in high school, right? So after our divorce, I became a student of a different sort. I became a student of financial services, where I took all the classes and got my Series 6 license and worked with financial services, not for very long. It wasn't my thing. I'm not a cold call person. That's just not me. And then I went to Home Federal, where I worked as a personal banker there for 5 years, where I again had to learn all kinds of new things. So that's another back to my student roots again. And the last thing I had to squiggle into was insurance, where I went to work at an insurance agency and had to take some more classes and study to become a fully licensed insurance agent. And that's where I met this beautiful woman, because we worked together for several years. She was doing the same thing I was. And we, with our office manager, Karen, had some real fun. It was pretty cool. And I'm so delighted that she's here now because, you know,
Full circle.
Yep, full circle. It's really wonderful. All right, then finally back to teaching. I retired when I turned 62 from the insurance and went back to my roots, music and education. I am currently teaching private cello lessons in my home, although some of the students are still virtual because of a variety of reasons. And I love it. I'm so happy This is retirement is what this should be for me. I'm all the way back to what I did. And along the way, I've performed with some symphony of any kind since age 11. I currently play in the Rochester Symphony and have done since 1984. I'm very honored that I'm still dexterous enough to do that. I've been married twice. I have 2 children with my first husband, plus 2 grandchildren. My second husband is Doug Porter, who many of you know because he's a member of this club. And we share his 2 children. I mean, we share my 2 children and his 3 children and his 2 grandchildren. And we're both the proud parent of the most adorable little dog named Louie, who is a Chigo. That's a Chihuahua Beagle mix. And he is so funny. He's got the big ears, right? And the little tiny nose. All right. I joined Rotary. Yeah, I'm thinking of Louis. I joined Rotary in 1994. My favorite volunteer position, although I've done a number of different things over the years, has been Strive. And I've been doing Strive for over 10 years. And it's just been great. I've enjoyed every year, whether the students do anything fabulous or not. So that's my story. And as you can see, I have jumped, no straight line for me. And I thank you for giving me this opportunity to share.
Thank you, Sarah. It's always interesting to hear people's paths and how they get to where they are. You know, either in my case, more of a straight line. A lot of people's cases more like Sarah, where you're going all over the place. And we all get to a place eventually that we want to be, and that's when we retire and hopefully can call our own shots. Last month, we had a program from Edgar Vitello, the Rotaract student who we are hosting this year. And while he is doing research at Mayo, there is interest from members from all 3 clubs to send him to the Rotary International Convention in Houston this summer. And he's very interested and has gotten the time off of work. If anyone would like to make a donation toward the trip to help cover flight, hotel, food, and registration, please make a check out to the Rotary Club of Rochester. And you can also give a check or cash to Amber, and she'll make sure that it gets to the right place. So thank you for that. Thank you, Phil Carcell, for hosting the Rotarians in his home last week. And thanks to Julie Brock for leading the virtual option last week. It worked out well to have a meeting last week. As part of our requirements and our bylaws, we are required in the month of January to have an annual meeting. And so I'm calling to order, I guess, our annual meeting so that we can announce the findings of our nominating committee as a slate of officers, and also to approve our adjusted bylaws for our club. So I'd like to call on Allie Good, who is our president-elect, of course, and she was in charge of our nominating committee. And so she's going to give a report. If she would do that, then we can hold an election. Thank you.
The teacher voice. We have no microphone. And we have 15 participants, including our own here. So we are at a quorum and we can vote for our annual meeting. I'd like to thank the nominating committee, which was myself, Ashok Patel, Jill Kortz, and Mike Benscotter. And we worked hard over the last 7 weeks to identify our leadership team next year, starting in July 1. We have still 2 open positions. So I am going to read the slate that we have so far. The treasurer and the secretaries are unfilled. And I brought the position descriptions. If any of you say, gosh, I'd like to serve on the board and be an officer of our club, give me an opportunity for leadership, I'm ready. And we hope you're ready to say yes. President Allison Good, President-elect Ashok Patel, President-elect nominee Janine Gagnes, Past President Audrey Betcher. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director Stacy Vandenheuvel. Measurement Director Julie Brock. Engagement Director Jill Cordes. Vocational and Educational Services Director Mark Benstotter. International Service Director Steve Sperling. Communications Director Melanie Chida. Membership Director Christine Erke. Community Service Director Zoe Jansen. And Club Administrator Amber Beneke. So I guess that is the stated roster. Do we want to ask if anybody is ready to consider being treasurer or secretary, at which time we can vote on this slate? Okay, we have work to do.
If not, I guess the proper way to do this is to accept that as a report from the nominating committee and ask if there are any other nominations or anyone that would like to add to that list. Otherwise, we would like to accept, I'd like to have a motion to accept that slate. So moved, okay, and the second? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, so we will hold an election. I would like to ask for a motion to accept the slate of officers and set them up as the incoming board of directors for 2022-23. Phil, you have a motion to approve?
Yes.
All right, I have a motion and I need a second. Second with John Lostness. Thank you. Okay, any other conversation? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, we heard somebody.
They said yes.
Okay, they said yes. Okay. All right. So thank you, and to all of the new board. It will be a challenge again, as it usually is, to run this organization, and we have some new directions that we're headed. So it should be an interesting time. The second item on the agenda for the annual meeting is to approve the bylaws, the amended bylaws that we have put out. And I would characterize the board has approved these to move to the membership for approval. And so we just need a motion to approve these amended bylaws so that we can move forward with these revisions. So I need a motion.
Sue Drips makes a motion. She accepts. She told me she read them.
Okay. Well, that's a major thing. It's good that you read them. Yeah. And they will if there's any question, they will be posted on our website. So if you want to go back and look at the revisions, they're relatively minor revisions, but they kind of get in alignment with the new board positions and cleaning up some of the language, which is kind of something you have to do periodically. So we have a motion to approve from Sue Drips. Any second? And Mark's going to second it. Okay, thank you, Mark. So we have a motion and a second. Any other conversation before we take a vote? Okay, take a vote. All those in favor of approving the amended bylaws, please say yes.
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 That's different than I.
You didn't want I, yeah.
And those opposed say no. Okay, didn't hear that one. So, okay, thank you very much. I guess that concludes our annual meeting component of this. Are there any other announcements that anyone would like to make before we begin our program today? Colin, Mr.
I just have one announcement. Can I make it from here?
Yes, you certainly can.
So on the third Thursday of the month is the third Thursday of the month, which is February 17th. There are 3 opportunities. So you could go to Twiz and have lunch. Lunch is unlimited. There's no gender. There's a table for I think a dozen. So show up at noon. Get to know a follower of Turing that you maybe have not had lunch with. And we ate there last week. And then the other opportunity last week, Phil graciously had a learning event And then we will continue to have a Zoom event, just a third Thursday. So we plug in the lunch, we do a Zoom, but what I'm looking for is a learning. So Phil was, I think some people came to his house, but if there's a place we can visit, if there's a business we can go to, or you have an occupation or a vocation, I think that's what we're looking for. I think that's what we're looking for.
Sarah could teach cello.
That's wonderful. I had heard Sarah play. I know where Sarah lives. That's an exceptionally good idea. I personally will be out of town in February, but if you have an idea, come and talk to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Colin. Any other announcements? You guys work out the logistics back there. Okay. So I'm pleased to introduce our program today. Dr. Lori Carrell serves as Chancellor for the Innovative University Campus of the University of Minnesota. As the newest public university campus in the country, UMR is this is a big word, entrepreneurial enterprise with an academic focus on health and research focus on student success. Lori moved from Wisconsin to Rochester in 2014 to serve as UMR's Vice Chancellor and began her service in the Chancellor's role on August of 2017. Her most recent book, Communicate for a Change, Revitalizing Conversations for Higher Education, published by Johns Hopkins University. She is a Rotarian with a heart for service on the boards of the Chamber of Commerce, the Cradle to Career, and Y of the North. Lori's husband, Tom, also serves this community in multiple roles, including Seasons Hospice, the Rochester Area Foundation, and as a leader of volunteers at St. Mary's pre-pandemic. They acted together, at St. Mary's, period. Pre-pandemic, they acted together at the Rochester Civic Theater's production of Stay With Me a While. So Lori joins us today to provide updates on UMR and take any questions that you might have. So welcome, Chancellor Lori.
Well, thank you so much. It's really good to be here and to be in person, but greetings to all the Zoomers. I'm usually there, and really nice to have you all with us. I like to start with gratitude, and always when I'm talking about the University of Minnesota Rochester, that gratitude extends to this community and those community organizers who, beginning in the 60s, worked to attract University of Minnesota campus to Rochester. And so thank you. Some of them were you, some in this room contributed to that effort over the decades. And we are so grateful. And I think our values at the Rochester campus have been positively affected by that history, and that our students all are very much engaged in the community. Also want to say, just speak out loud the thanks that we all share to educators at all levels. While healthcare professionals are top of mind in terms of sacrifice and devotion during the pandemic, educators as well. Anytime I think I'm having a hard day because of the pandemic, I imagine myself trying to teach kindergarten via Zoom, and my heart just overflows with gratitude. And we know that the repercussions of this really difficult time are going to extend into the decade. But educators everywhere at all levels have been collectively doing their very best for the youth to develop their potential and to support them in every way. So thank you, educators. I like to share good news too. Good news on our campus is that we are 96% vaccinated. And for those who have an exemption to vaccination, there is regular testing. And of course, we've had the mandatory mask for quite a while. And our decision system-wide was, if there's anything we can do that can help us stay in person for learning and student development, well, we are going to do it because we need each other.
And so I'm grateful that last week, as we started our second semester, we did begin in person, and with worries about Omicron, we have not had spread. And I am especially grateful to our students who are so committed to being compliant so they too can be in person. So that's the good news. Then I want to move to some trivia and a few updates and then take your questions. So a few of you know the answers. Marco, my colleague, I'm sorry, but I don't think you should answer. All right, so we'll just take quick guesses. The fall 21 academic year numbers show what % increase of total enrollment from pre-pandemic. So fall 19 to fall 21, our enrollment grew. This is unusual. I'm not, say it again. Great guess, but you're wrong. 10% would be even better, but up we go to 13%, a 13% increase in enrollment. I just think of young people who have become more aware as public health is a common topic, and the challenges that they want to address the challenges. That's the way they want to use their lives. And we're thrilled about that. All right, total UMR students served at this time. Started 52 in 2009 when we launched. So fall of 21, we're almost to
120.
1,000. Thank you very much. So we have a strategic growth plan. We're phasing it in to 1,000 to 1,500 to 2,500. We're calling it Bold, Bolder, and Boldest because we are the newest public university campus in the country. And so we are ahead of schedule, and that's been challenging because there was a hiring freeze throughout the pandemic. So more students came, but not more faculty and staff. So we are currently hiring along with just about every other industry represented in the room. All right, so what percentage of UMR alumni had a meaningful learning experience at Mayo Clinic while they were a student? So UMR alumni, what percentage had a meaningful learning experience at Mayo Clinic while an undergrad? Just 100. Oh gosh, well, now we've got to adjust downward just a little bit to 78%, which we're happy about. And we want to grow it to 100 and have several pieces of our partnership with Mayo Clinic helping us to accelerate that. Yes,
so
Bill?
can you define what's a meaningful experience?
Yes, we allowed our alumni to define that in answering the question. The depth of the learning is, we think, apparent in all of our programs that we have for students, but we let them decide, was it or not. So there's work study, and perhaps that would be more or less, meaningful to a student than an internship or a career shadow or having a mentor or being in a research lab. So there are all kinds of experiences that they may have, but we put the word meaningful in there on purpose. All right, good. UMR continues to live out our land grant mission by serving what percentage of Minnesota students? So of our student body, what's the percentage that are from Minnesota at present?
70%.
You're really close. Let's bump it up to 80. 80% are from Minnesota. Now, as we grow Boulder and Boldest up to 2,500, we do need to import human potential to meet the workforce needs in the healthcare industry within Minnesota. So that percentage is going to go downward as the number goes upward and we open new strategic markets outside of Minnesota. But primarily, we're here to serve Minnesota. So once we get those out-of-state students here, we want to retain them as Minnesotans. And I think our wonderful winter weather will really help with that. Oh, first generation students, so neither parent went to college, make up what percentage of UMR's student body?
30%.
40%? Almost 43%.
And that number's been as high as 50%. And it varies across the years. We do enroll the highest percentage of students of color of any of the University of Minnesota campuses. So for fall 21, what was that percentage?
2010.
40. What a gift this is to our campus community. The kind of diversity that is represented not only at commencement, but also in first year orientation and first gen students who come from rural Minnesota, perhaps a farm, and metro students and immigrant students come having had some degree of sameness in their childhood, and then to experience real deep, fun connections across all kinds of backgrounds has the potential not just to make for a rich learning environment, but I think, you know, a better world. So we love it. We love it. And of course, our graduates are going to contribute to lowering disparities in health, given their diversity and their success as students and beyond. So what percentage of 2021 graduating class completed their degree in 4 years or less?
95. Ooh, good.
98.
Wow.
Ooh, 98 in 4 years or less. That's important for so many reasons, and it takes really good curricular design and student support. And we've talked about the kinds of things we do there that are research-based, but that 98, I'm so proud of them. It also takes their incredible hard work because it is rigorous from day one, right? Organic chemistry and stats and all that. There's no messing around, but they link arms and we support them and they get through together. And then finally, underrepresented students, and we're talking here historically underrepresented. So first generation students from low income who qualify for Pell, low income families, and students of color. What percentage of our total student body in fall 2021 was in at least one of those categories, underrepresented historically? What?
30.
Up. 50? Up. 70. Ding, ding, ding. You get the prize today. All right, 70%. How glorious. How glorious. What a wonderful student body. So that's just a little bit of trivia about the University of Minnesota Rochester campus. We are what is called a niche campus. That is, we have an academic focus in health. There are 6 broad career pathways, and that makes for a great deal of variety in what our students end up doing. There are many systems in public higher education across the country who are now going to niche campuses rather than regional comprehensive to be as efficient as possible, as focused as possible for the good of students and for the good of using state dollars. You know, one of those 6 career pathways is global connections, global policy in health. And I think that might be of particular interest to Rotary. We have a living learning community that is focused on global health, and perhaps we could have some intersection going forward with that group. If they give 2 years of service to the campus and the community around issues of global health, then we invest in their study abroad. Of course, we haven't been able to do that lately, but that is a commitment we've made to those students. We also have, we're in the update portion, coming out of COVID. Oh gosh, I hope we are soon at hindsight, don't you? Right, so when we finally get to post-pandemic hindsight, there will be so much that has been learned in education, and certainly at UMR, because we have so much data on students, what they're doing and not doing, and how it affects their learning and development. One of the areas in which we have put our focus is in using higher tech more strategically. Certainly Zoom has saved us. And yesterday I got to be on a call with some colleagues at Yale and in the East Coast who brought the CEO from Zoom to talk with us. And he asked, you know, can you imagine?
how much money that company made in the last couple of years. So, but he asked, well, how can we make Zoom better to help educators? And it was a robust discussion. But using higher tech and really human-based practices to support mental health and development for young people is what we're trying to do in combination. Use that learning from the pandemic period to support what will be our next innovation, and that is called Next Gen Med. And that will launch this summer. We've been working diligently nearly every day with Google colleagues to create a new tech platform that supports well-being as well as study. And we are accelerating the undergraduate degree and making it year-round to drive down student costs, but designing the curriculum to be not only efficient, but better, especially for underrepresented students. And this particular program will get to the undergraduate, usually 4-year degree in 2.5 years. So for a savings of at least $26,000. It is focused in the career path of the business and leadership of health, And we have a wonderful event coming up March 24th, where we will be working with students who are nominated, prospective students, to be a good match, to be trailblazers who would do well in a year-round program that will include a paid year-long internship with Mayo Clinic and an open door to a job at the end, as well as $20,000 in scholarships for the 2 summers where Pell eligibility is in question. Right now, the federal government has a problem with Pell in the summer. We're working with them. In fact, meeting with Undersecretary Carrell next week about this very issue, as well as some others, to get Pell eligibility in the summertime. So creative ways to drive down the cost and drive up the quality. And if you know of prospective students who might be a good match for such a program, we have some information sessions coming up so they could learn more about it. But we have a mechanism by which you can nominate a student, and then we'll reach out. One of our success coaches will talk with them about whether this might be a good match. We're looking for 50 students for this first trailblazing cohort, and the eyes of the nation are upon us. Next week, there'll be a feature in the Chronicle of Higher Education, and there have already been several national examinations of what we have in mind. Of course, it doesn't exist yet, but we're building it every single day, and we have a fabulous team working on that. That particular project has expanded. Again, our vision is to transform higher education. That means cost down, quality up for equity, right? And so the Next Gen Med as a model in design has led to a project called College in 3, where we get the federal government to change some of their guidelines so that we can be better and more efficient. And we have 13 pilot campuses working with us. And one of those, Georgetown University, there are privates and publics, and they're all over the country. So we'll watch where that goes. We want to make things better as we develop human potential and support students. And then I can't help but mention, what time is it? Okay, there'll still be time for questions. Something that happened that is really good, and I would ask for your support. And this is that wonder upon wonders coming to this period in the pandemic, that our state has extra money. I don't know if you've heard this, right? So there's this surplus. We think it'll hold because it is so extraordinarily large. And there are many competing demands, so many people hurting in this period of time. The university has asked for some supplemental money, and so have many others, of course. And it will be difficult, I'm sure, for legislators to sort through the priorities. But let me tell you what's embedded in that supplemental request that would be good for Rochester students. First is, this is so good. I don't know if you know about You Promise. but these are state dollars that go to students, Minnesota students. And what's going to happen there, should this request be granted, is that the threshold of income for students getting a UPromise scholarship in Minnesota is going to go up. And that means thousands of more students and their families would qualify for the UPromise scholarships, multiple thousands of dollars per year. So that would be really exciting. And the second part of the supplemental request from the university going to the legislature that I'm really a big fan of is something called the Greater Minnesota Student Scholarship. Doesn't it sound delicious? It does to me, because the number one challenge to our students, 70% underrepresented and just brimming with potential and passion, trying to meet the needs of the world. Their biggest challenge is financial. And so the Greater Minnesota Scholarship, if that request is granted, would give a scholarship of $3,000 to $4,000 to every Minnesota student going to Rochester, Crookston, Morris, or Duluth, those 4 University of Minnesota campuses. And should they be retained and continue, which they tend to do quite well at our campus, that scholarship goes up. That scholarship goes up. So I think it's a brilliant proposal. And of course I would, given my role, but it really holds promise to help students where they need that help most. They have the commitment, the will, the devotion, even when they have to Zoom and not be with their friends, they have persevered and they have come to Rochester in greater and greater amounts. And so we want to do what we can to support them. So I thought I would also bring that to your attention. I hope by the end of session or the special session, if there has to be one, that we'll have some good news for students coming out of that. So those are some of my updates, and I'm open to any questions you might have about the Rochester campus of the University of Minnesota. Yes, sir.
So you say you're up to 1,000 students, 1,100 students?
Almost 1,000, not quite.
What's the capacity that you can go?
Well, with the hiring freeze, our capacity in terms of personnel does not meet the student body that we have, but we are currently hiring, so hopefully that will match. We need new housing to go on to our next target of 1,500. And so we previously had a developer selected a building design with the Y on the university-owned property across from the co-op. And that was all green lighted. And then the pandemic hits and things happen for the Y that are sad. And their business model is changing. They're getting creative. However, that project was called off. And so we are very short on student housing. And so for us to grow beyond 1,000, we'll have to be successful in either remodeling existing space downtown into housing or getting a building project approved again.
Chancellor Carrell, could you repeat the questions when people ask? And thank you so much for coming.
Oh, nice to see you, Janine. And I hope I see you in person at some point soon. But I will repeat the question. And that one, it was, what is our capacity as a campus? So we're aiming for 2,500. However, with the hybridness of Next Gen Med, we are a pilot for the system. We will learn what we can learn, and that may explode enrollment, or we may learn that a different method is better. So yes, Colin?
I'm in financial services, and I typically work with true retirees, but a couple of weeks in my office, I had a younger couple, and their question was a bit like what you ended. They have 2 kids, and they're trying to save for college. Well, of course, I can do all kinds of calculations and spreadsheets, but what should I tell them, or any young family that has 3-year-old, 5-year-olds, is it feasible for them to go to any public school? Is that still a reality? They just wanted to say the third, not so. Just give me some ammunition on that.
I'd be happy to share some things in writing as well. And I love your question. But the answer, the question was, thank you for reminding me. Gosh, how did I forget that so soon? Janine, sorry about that. So our financial advisor is asking what advice he might give to parents of young children about the affordability of public higher education. Well, first, we use the word public, so I'll circle it, right? Much more affordable than private. Privates, they can discount, but not have the actual dollars there. So advertise at 50,000 and say, oh, let's mark that down by 20. That feels pretty good, but they don't have to have the actual dollars there to do that. And generally, when we look at the financial aid packages between public and private, we'll see the bottom line is still lower at public. And so I think they can count on an exceptional education at a public university, particularly in Minnesota, in both systems. That is the case. Going to school in one's home state across the country, that is becoming more and more a route to affordability. While there is some reciprocity with some other states, there is movement away from that in multiple states. And going to one's home state public universities is often the best choice so that funds like You Promise are available.
Thank you.
Yes.
Your focus on the medical area is obvious, but the Mayo Clinic is obviously going to be becoming more computer-based along with everybody else, along with the rest of us in the world. And IBM is also still here, even though we don't see and hear much about it. I know you have the Bixby program, but is there a plan, a strategy, a vision that a computer science curriculum would develop stronger than it is?
So a couple things. First, the question is about technology and academic programs related to technology. So I mentioned the 6 career pathways, and that is an efficient way that we will get to what you have wanted and many others have wanted. One of our 6 pathways is emerging health technology. And so as we expand that with the Google partnership, with input from IBM and others, and with a conduit, a pathway to courses and graduate study at the Twin Cities campus, you will be seeing that area expand.
Mark in the back have one.
Mark in the back.
Go ahead, you can, Karen, go ahead, Karen first, and I'll get you next.
I'm just curious, you mentioned shortage of housing. Has anyone considered buying the Y since that's closing? It's a big building and it could be turned into it, and the location would be great.
Well, you know that the Y has been our partner since we opened in 2009, that our students' recreation fees are going toward recreation programming that the Y has provided. And so we are, in an interesting moment of looking for the creativity and opportunity out of the current situation. And that building is older and has issues, is generally known in this community. What specifically those issues might be and their costliness is not yet known, at least by me. Maybe some folks know it. What will happen to that building is yet to be determined because there just isn't enough information. At first glance, I wouldn't think that it would be good for housing, in that we want to provide a particular kind of space that is research-based. But our partnership with the Y for housing and a Center for Human Flourishing Well-Being was where we were headed before the pandemic came. So I think you can watch for something creative to emerge from the grief that is currently being experienced because of the closing of the Y.
Based off of that question, would you be looking at moving out of downtown Rochester?
We will not be moving out of downtown Rochester. That's how 78% of our alumni get to have meaningful experiences at Mayo Clinic. That partnership, the proximity, all of that is made possible now in Discovery Square with the many tenants there that are more tech focused or biotech focused. That is really good for us. Now, some people think that by the time you get to the co-op, you're no longer in downtown, and we remind them by showing a map of the Twin Cities campus. That's a really short walk. So we would circle around the land owned by the university in proximity to the Y there across the co-op as being part of downtown.
Okay, Mark.
And Lori, my question is kind of towards that. A few years ago, you had an aggressive land purchase of that area down there. If COVID had not happened, there could have been some building structure going on possibly by now.
Right.
With the launch of Next Gen Med, where is that going with that land now? Is it just gonna sit there and you're gonna wait for the right time, or are there some plans in recent come up here?
So the question is about the land and the plans. I think I've heard this one before. The plans were to build the building. We would have been opening our doors shortly had there not been a pandemic. And that would have been on the university-owned land across from the co-op. There is still the master plan from 2014. We anticipate the Board of Regents asking us to revise the master plan, and that process would launch this summer. But after I'm done here and I drive back downtown, I will be in a facilities meeting. And that is a very common occurrence for me as we explore every option. And we're looking at what's best for our students in two ways. One, if we partner, we save tuition dollars. How can we partner? Because we want to put every cent toward the quality of education so we keep these outcomes. They are phenomenal, right? We want to do our best for students. And then in addition to looking at the financial piece of this and the partnerships, we are also looking at proximity to opportunity for our students. So lots of vacant real estate downtown right now. We're exploring everything that makes sense for our students and for this community. So when I know, I will tell you.
Jay has a comment. He says, you are a great asset to the community. Wonderful update. Congratulations. And you're a great neighbor.
Oh, thank you. I bet that was Lee. All right, I see
Yes,
that.
yes.
I'm 1 minute over. So thank you for your interest and support of the University of Minnesota. We continue to be grateful to this wonderful community. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lori. Great update on where we are. And I guess we stay tuned. So within the next couple of weeks, you'll tell us about the land and the plan. May not happen that fast. I know as an architect, I know these things come together slowly. So I want to thank you for your presentation. A gift will be given to the Diversity Council in your name. So thank you very much. As we close out today, I want to give thanks to those who assisted. Joel Hock, our greeter, Tamsin Leimer for leading us in the four-way test, Joseph, who provided the reflection, Colin Aldis for introducing no visitors. But let's get some visitors coming. And assisting at the visitors table, John Woodruff, our Sergeant at Arms, for helping the visitors table. And of course, a big thank you to Lori Carrell, Dr. Lori Carrell, for her presentation. So thank you all. Serve to change lives. I have the bell back, so we are adjourned.
Can you sign these two?
Sure.